Fired for the first time in 15 years, by sunrise, my boss's $42 million project belonged to me. Hi, I'm Ava Collins and I'm 38 years old. What happened to me could happen to anyone who believes loyalty and hard work will always protect them in corporate America. Before I take you through the betrayal, the overnight takeover, and how I turned my firing into the sweetest revenge that destroyed my boss's career, go ahead and hit that subscribe button below. If you enjoy real stories where justice isn't just served but delivered with devastating precision, this is the place for you. Now, let me tell you how losing everything in 15 minutes became the best thing that ever happened to me. Let me tell you exactly how I stole a $42 million project from the man who fired me and built my empire from his ashes. At exactly 4:37 p.m. on a Tuesday, HR walked into my office with that fake sympathetic smile. Behind her was Martin Kellerman, my director, wearing a smug expression I'd never seen before. "Ava, we need to discuss some department restructuring," she said, avoiding eye contact. I knew instantly this wasn't about restructuring. Martin's eyes gleamed with barely contained satisfaction. After 15 years at Stratton Industries, I could read corporate politics like a roadmap. "Effective immediately, your position is being eliminated," she continued, sliding papers across my desk. Martin finally spoke, his voice dripping with false concern. "Budget cuts, you understand. Nothing personal." But I saw through his performance. The way he shifted his weight, the slight upturn of his lips, the timing, 2 days before our biggest client presentation. This wasn't budget cuts. My hand stayed steady as I reviewed the termination papers. 15 years of perfect performance reviews, successfully delivered projects worth over $200 million, and this was how it ended. "I'll need you to clear your desk tonight," HR added. That's when I knew, this wasn't business. It was personal. Packing 15 years into 3 cardboard boxes felt surreal. My coworkers avoided eye contact, suddenly finding their computer screens fascinating. The office buzzed with whispered conversations that stopped when I walked past. I methodically packed my awards, my client thank you letters, and the photo from last year's company retreat where Martin and I had laughed together. How quickly things changed. As I reached for my coffee mug, a gift from a grateful client, I heard Martin's voice carrying from the conference room. The door was slightly open. "By tomorrow, the Blackstone project is ours," he said into his phone. No more Ava slowing us down with her perfectionist delays. My blood turned cold. The Blackstone project, our $42 million infrastructure deal that I'd spent 8 months developing. The one I'd warned him about, begged him to extend the timeline for, fought to protect from his aggressive shortcuts. He was planning to take credit for my work while painting me as an obstacle to progress. I quietly continued packing, but my mind was racing. Martin had just made a critical mistake. He'd revealed his hand too early. Walking to my car, 15 years of memories flooded back. My first day as a junior project coordinator, nervous and eager. The Hamilton Bridge project that established my reputation. The Wellington Highway expansion that earned me a promotion. The countless nights I'd stayed late, the weekends I'd sacrificed, the family dinners I'd missed. All for a company that could erase me in 15 minutes. But as I sat in my car, staring at the building that had been my second home, something shifted inside me. The hurt was transforming into something sharper, more focused. Martin thought he was clever, timing my termination to coincide with tomorrow's client presentation. He assumed I'd go quietly, defeated and broken. He expected me to slink away while he claimed credit for my innovation. But Martin Kellerman had forgotten one crucial detail about me. In 15 years, I'd never lost a project. I'd never backed down from a challenge. And I'd never, ever, let someone steal what was rightfully mine. If he wanted me gone by sunrise, I'd make sure he'd regret the dawn. The game was just beginning. Sitting in my driveway, I pulled out my laptop and opened the Blackstone contract. Every clause, every specification, every timeline was burned into my memory. I'd written most of it myself. The $42 million infrastructure project was my masterpiece, a complete overhaul of their logistics network with custom software integration. But more importantly, I remembered the warnings I'd given Martin 3 weeks ago. The timeline was too aggressive. The budget was razor thin. The technical requirements needed another month of testing. But Martin had dismissed my concerns, calling me overly cautious in front of the team. Now he was about to inherit a project destined for failure, and he had no idea what was coming. But then I remembered something else, something Martin had overlooked in his rush to claim credit. Buried in Section 12.3 of the contract was a clause I'd insisted on including. A client protection clause that allowed immediate reassignment of project leadership if confidence was lost. Martin had signed off on it without reading the fine print. The contract clause no one else remembers. I scrolled through my contacts until I found Dean Patterson's number. Dean was a senior systems engineer who joined our team 2 years ago. More importantly, he was someone I'd personally saved from being fired when his previous manager had tried to scapegoat him for a failed server migration. Dean owed me his career. The phone rang twice before his familiar voice answered. Ava? I heard what happened. I can't believe Dean, I need a favor, I interrupted. A big one. After what you did for me? Anything. I could hear the sincerity in his voice. Dean was one of the few people at Stratton who understood my work ethic, who'd seen me save projects others had given up on. I need you to document every technical concern I raised about the Blackstone timeline. Every email, every meeting note, every warning about the infrastructure compatibility issues. The stuff Martin ignored? Dean's voice hardened. I've got all of it. Timestamps, dates, your exact predictions about what would go wrong. Can you compile it into a comprehensive report by tonight? Already working on it, he said. Tell me what you need, Ava. As Dean compiled the evidence, I remembered something that made my heart race. Tonight was supposed to be my dinner with Catherine Blackstone, the CEO of Blackstone Logistics. A casual monthly check-in we'd established to ensure project alignment. Martin didn't know about these dinners. They weren't on the official project calendar because Catherine preferred informal updates. She'd specifically requested direct communication with the technical lead, me. I checked my phone. Our reservation was for 7 p.m. at Hudson's Steakhouse. I glanced at the clock, 5:45 p.m. With trembling fingers, I texted Catherine, "Dinner's still on for tonight? Need to discuss some project developments." My phone buzzed immediately. Her reply was exactly what I'd hoped for, absolutely. Looking forward to it. Been meaning to discuss some timeline concerns anyway. Catherine Blackstone, the woman who held the power to make or break Martin's stolen project, was expecting me in an hour. And she had concerns about the timeline, the exact issues Martin had ignored. This dinner was about to become much more interesting. Before heading to dinner, I crafted one final email to the company. Instead of the bitter resignation letter everyone expected, I chose a different approach. Dear Stratton team, I wrote, after 15 wonderful years, my journey here has come to an end. I'm grateful for every project, every challenge, and every relationship I've built. Thank you for the privilege of serving our clients alongside such talented professionals. Sometimes, the end is the beginning. Best regards, Ava Collins. I hit send and watched as my phone immediately lit up with replies. Colleagues expressing shock, support, and confusion. But one reply stood out. Martin had responded to all. "Thank you for your service, Ava. Don't be dramatic." I stared at his response, particularly the last 3 words. Don't be dramatic. The dismissive tone was so perfectly Martin, arrogant, condescending, completely unaware of what was coming. By tomorrow morning, Martin Kellerman would learn exactly how dramatic I could be. I grabbed my jacket and headed to dinner with Catherine Blackstone, carrying Dean's damning report and a plan that would turn Martin's victory into his destruction. I arrived at Hudson's Steakhouse 15 minutes early, using the time to review Dean's report one final time. 23 pages of documented evidence showing every technical concern I'd raised, every timeline warning I'd given, every budget risk I'd identified. But more importantly, I prepared my own proposal. A revised project plan that addressed every issue Martin had ignored. Realistic timelines, proper testing phases, risk mitigation strategies. Everything Catherine would need to see the difference between competent leadership and reckless ambition. At exactly 7 p.m., Catherine Blackstone walked through the restaurant doors. At 52, she commanded attention without trying. Her steel gray hair was pulled back in a practical bun, and her sharp blue eyes missed nothing. "Ava," she smiled warmly, extending her hand. "You look troubled. What's going on?" As we settled into our corner booth, I took a deep breath. This conversation would determine whether my 15 years of expertise could overcome Martin's corporate maneuvering. "Catherine, I need to tell you something about the project that could save your company millions." Her expression shifted to complete attention. "I was terminated today," I said simply, watching Catherine's face carefully. Her fork paused halfway to her mouth. "Terminated? Ava, you're the only person at Stratton who actually understands our technical requirements." "Exactly." I slid Dean's report across the table. "Before we discuss my situation, you need to see this. It's documentation of every concern I raised about the current timeline, concerns that were ignored." Catherine opened the report and began reading. Her expression darkened with each page. Technical compatibility issues that could cause 6-month delays. Budget overruns that could hit $15 million. Integration problems that could crash their entire logistics network. Martin assured me these risks were minimal, she said quietly. "Martin hasn't read the technical specifications," I replied. "He's never managed a project this complex. He's planning to proceed with the aggressive timeline despite knowing it will fail." Catherine closed the report and leaned back. "What aren't you telling me, Ava? I still have tonight's dinner scheduled with you, the one Martin doesn't know about. He's probably celebrating right now, thinking he's inherited a guaranteed success. He has no idea what's really coming." Catherine's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and frowned. "Speak of the devil. Martin just texted me about exciting developments he wants to discuss tomorrow." "Catherine, there's something else you need to know," I said, pulling out my copy of the contract. Section 12.3, the client protection clause I insisted on including. She flipped to the relevant page and read aloud, "If the client loses confidence in the project leadership, they may request immediate reassignment to qualified personnel of their choosing." I insisted on that clause specifically because I knew Martin's management style, I explained. He prioritizes appearances over substance. I wanted to protect your company if something like this happened. Catherine studied the contract language carefully. "This gives us the right to pull the project from Stratton entirely? Or reassign it to different leadership? Leadership with actual technical expertise and a realistic understanding of the challenges. Someone like you?" I met her eyes. Someone exactly like me. Catherine was quiet for a long moment, processing the implications. Then she leaned forward with the focused intensity that had built her logistics empire. How soon could you take over if we pulled it from them? The question I'd been hoping for, delivered with the directness I'd come to expect from Catherine Blackstone. I could start tonight, I said without hesitation. Catherine raised an eyebrow. Tonight? I'd been preparing for this project for 8 months. I know every specification, every vendor, every technical requirement. More importantly, I know exactly what needs to be fixed to make it successful. What about resources? Staff? You can't deliver a $42 million project alone. I wouldn't be alone. Dean Patterson, our lead systems engineer, has been documenting everything. He'd follow me. So would at least 2 other senior engineers who understand the technical challenges. Catherine pulled out her phone and made a quick call. Patricia. Pull the Stratton contract. I need to review our reassignment options. Yes, immediately. While she spoke to her legal team, I called our procurement officer, someone I'd worked with for 3 years. Jackson? It's Ava Collins. Quick question, has Martin sent you the updated project timeline we discussed? No, nothing from Martin. Should I be expecting something? That's odd, I said, making sure Catherine could hear. Martin promised the board everything was on track. Catherine finished her call and looked at me intently. My legal team confirms we have full reassignment rights. The question is, are you ready to take on Martin Kellerman and Stratton Industries? I thought about his smug expression, his dismissive email, his plan to steal my work. I'd been ready for 15 years. After dinner, I drove past Hudson's Steakhouse, Martin's favorite celebration spot. Through the window, I could see him at a corner table with 2 Stratton board members, gesturing animatedly with a glass of expensive scotch. He was clearly celebrating his victory, probably spinning stories about how he'd streamlined the team and eliminated obstacles to success. The board members were nodding approvingly, completely unaware that their star project was built on stolen work and doomed to fail. Martin's laughter carried through the window as he toasted what he believed was his triumph. His tie was loosened, his face flushed with alcohol and arrogance. He'd probably been planning this celebration for weeks. What he couldn't see was Catherine Blackstone's car pulling into the parking lot behind me. She'd followed me here, wanting to witness Martin's confidence firsthand before we destroyed it. He has no idea what's coming, does he? She said, pulling alongside my car. None whatsoever. We sat in our cars for 5 minutes, watching Martin's animated storytelling. The man who'd built his career on taking credit for other people's work was about to learn that some victories are hollow. He doesn't notice me watching. Back at Catherine's office at 9 p.m., we spread the contract documents across her conference table. Her legal team had joined us via video call, confirming every detail of our reassignment strategy. The timeline concerns you documented give us clear justification, her lead attorney explained. If Martin proceeds with the original schedule, he's essentially guaranteeing project failure. Catherine listened as I walked through the real technical requirements, the realistic timeline, the proper testing phases that Martin had eliminated. With each detail, her confidence in the reassignment decision grew stronger. This isn't just about saving the project, she said finally. This is about working with someone who actually understands what we're building. Exactly. Martin sees a $42 million contract. I see a logistics revolution that could transform how your entire industry operates. Catherine leaned back in her chair, studying me carefully. Ava, I'm going to ask you something, and I want a completely honest answer. Of course. If I give you this project, will you deliver it better than Martin could? I thought about 8 months of preparation, 15 years of experience, and the passion Martin had never understood. I won't just deliver it better, I said. I'll deliver it right. Catherine smiled and reached for her pen. Do it. At 11:30 p.m., Catherine's assistant sent over the consulting agreement. Standard terms for emergency project reassignment, but with one crucial addition: I would have complete technical authority and direct reporting to Catherine herself. The contract was elegant in its simplicity. Effective immediately, I was the new project lead for the Blackstone infrastructure overhaul. Martin's team would receive formal notification at 6 a.m., exactly 12 hours before their scheduled presentation. The timing is perfect, Catherine explained. Too late for them to recover, too early for them to claim the project was completed under their leadership. I signed the agreement at exactly 1:12 a.m., officially making me the leader of the project Martin thought he'd stolen. But more than that, I was now in position to show the industry exactly what happened when competence replaced corporate politics. My phone buzzed with a text from Dean. Just saw your consulting agreement in the system. We're ready when you are. 3 senior engineers were prepared to follow me into this new venture. Martin's streamlined team was about to lose its most valuable members. There's one more thing, Catherine said as I prepared to leave. I want Martin to understand exactly why this happened. When we send the reassignment notice, I want your technical concerns listed in detail. Sunrise will bring the news Martin never saw coming. I spent the hours between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. crafting the most important email of my career. The subject line was simple: Project Leadership Reassignment, effective immediately. But the body was a masterpiece of professional destruction. Dear Stratton Leadership Team, I wrote, based on documented technical concerns and timeline analysis, Blackstone Logistics is exercising our right under contract section 12.3 to reassign project leadership. The following individuals have raised critical concerns that require immediate attention. I listed every technical issue Dean had documented. Every warning I'd given Martin. Every risk he'd dismissed. The email was a surgical dissection of his incompetence, written in the precise, professional language that made it legally bulletproof. At 5:30 a.m., I called Dean, Harrison Knox, and Stephanie Ward, the 3 engineers who'd agreed to join my consulting team. It's official, I told them. We're the new leadership team. Effective immediately. What about Martin? Harrison asked. He'll find out in 15 minutes. At exactly 5:45 a.m., I sent the email to the entire Stratton leadership team, Blackstone's board, and Martin Kellerman personally. I CC'd Martin specifically, wanting him to see his name in the reassignment notification. The game was over. Martin had lost before he even knew we were playing. My phone rang at 5:52 a.m. Martin Kellerman's name flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. The message he left was everything I'd hoped for, panic barely controlled by fake professional calm. Ava, this is obviously a misunderstanding. We can work this out. Call me immediately. I deleted the message and waited for the real chaos to begin. At 6:15 a.m., my phone buzzed with a text from board member Harold Watson. What happened? Martin says you blindsided him. I replied with perfect simplicity, check the contract. Section 12.3. Within minutes, Watson called back. Jesus, Ava. Martin never mentioned these technical concerns. Are they legitimate? Every single one. Dean Patterson documented everything. What's your success rate on projects this size? 15 years, 0 failures. And Martin's? He's never managed anything over $10 million. The silence on the other end told me everything I needed to know. The board was beginning to understand exactly what they'd lost when they terminated me. By 7 a.m., 3 more board members had reached out. By 8 a.m., Stratton's CEO was demanding an emergency meeting with Catherine Blackstone. But it was too late. The reassignment was legally binding, and I was already implementing the corrected timeline. At 9 a.m., Blackstone Logistics issued a press release that sent shockwaves through the industry. Blackstone Logistics announces the appointment of Ava Collins as lead consultant for the $42 million infrastructure modernization project, effective immediately. The press release included a quote from Catherine. Ms. Collins brings 15 years of flawless project execution and unparalleled technical expertise to this critical initiative. Martin's name wasn't mentioned anywhere. I was in Catherine's office when her assistant handed her a stack of messages. 12 calls from Stratton executives in the last hour, she reported. All requesting urgent meetings. What did you tell them? That you're unavailable. Catherine looked at me and smiled. How does it feel to be officially in charge of the project they tried to steal from you? I thought about Martin's smug expression yesterday, his dismissive email, his celebration dinner while I packed my career into cardboard boxes. It feels like justice. My phone buzzed with notifications, LinkedIn messages from colleagues, industry contacts sharing the press release, reporters asking for comment. The story was spreading fast, the veteran project manager who'd turned her firing into a corporate coup. But the best message came from Dean. 3 more engineers just submitted resignation letters to Stratton. They want to join our team. The staff exodus from Stratton began before lunch. First Dean, then Harrison, then Stephanie. By 2 p.m., 5 senior engineers had submitted resignation letters, all citing opportunities to work with proven leadership. Each resignation letter was polite, professional, and devastating to Martin's remaining credibility. I've enjoyed my time at Stratton, Dean wrote in his letter, but I've accepted a position where my technical expertise will be fully utilized under experienced leadership. Martin tried calling each departing engineer, but they'd all made their choice. They'd rather work for someone who understood the technology than someone who'd gotten the job through corporate politics. Catherine watched the exodus with obvious satisfaction. In one day, you've assembled a team that Martin spent years trying to build. The difference is, they're choosing to work with me, I replied. Martin never understood that loyalty can't be demanded, it has to be earned. By end of business, Martin had lost 60% of his technical staff. The Blackstone project that was supposed to establish his reputation had become a demonstration of his failures. If Ava's in charge, I'm in, was the unofficial motto spreading through the engineering department. Martin's desperation reached new heights by Thursday afternoon. Unable to reach me directly, he started calling mutual contacts, spinning increasingly frantic stories about corporate espionage and unethical poaching. But his attempts to smear my reputation backfired spectacularly when Catherine issued a second press statement, Ms. Collins has demonstrated the highest levels of professional integrity throughout this transition. Her technical expertise and ethical standards are exactly what complex projects require. The statement was a corporate death sentence for Martin's credibility. Industry forums lit up with discussions about the Stratton-Blackstone situation. Project managers shared their own stories of incompetent leadership and stolen credit. I'd become a symbol of something larger. The triumph of competence over corporate politics. Martin tried one last desperate play, posting on LinkedIn about the importance of company loyalty and professionals who honor their commitments. The post received 3 likes and 47 comments, mostly from my former colleagues defending my reputation and questioning his leadership abilities. His credibility crumbles. Friday morning brought the moment I'd been waiting for. I walked into the Stratton building. Not as an employee, but as the lead consultant for their former client. My temporary office was on the executive floor, 3 doors down from Martin's. As I set up my laptop, I could hear raised voices from the boardroom. The emergency meeting Catherine had refused was finally happening, but it was too late for damage control. Through the glass walls, I watched Martin gesturing frantically at a room full of stone-faced executives. His career was ending in real time, and everyone in that room knew it. At 10:30 a.m., he walked past my office carrying a cardboard box. Our eyes met through the glass. He paused, clearly wanting to say something. I waited, curious about his final words after everything that had happened. "This isn't over," he said quietly. "You're right," I replied. "It's already finished." Security escorted him to the elevator. 15 minutes later, Stratton's CEO personally apologized to Catherine and offered to subcontract any additional services I might need. I passed Martin in the lobby. The project that Martin had tried to steal became the foundation of my consulting empire. With Catherine's backing and a team of industry veterans, we delivered the infrastructure overhaul 3 weeks ahead of schedule and $2.8 million under budget. But more importantly, word spread through the industry about the woman who'd turned corporate betrayal into business triumph. Within 6 months, I had contracts with 4 Fortune 500 companies and a waiting list of clients who'd heard about my methods. Martin, meanwhile, struggled to find employment. His name had become synonymous with project mismanagement and poor leadership. The few companies that considered hiring him eventually passed after speaking with references who'd witnessed his failures. The irony was perfect. In trying to steal my success, he'd guaranteed his own destruction. I established Collins Technical Consulting in the same building where I'd once been terminated. Every day, I walked past the office where Martin had celebrated my firing, now occupied by one of my senior engineers. Justice had come full circle, but the best part was yet to come. 1 year after my termination, I received an unexpected visitor. Martin Kellerman stood in my reception area, looking older and worn down by 12 months of professional failure. "Ava, I need to talk to you," he said quietly. I led him to my office, the corner space with floor-to-ceiling windows that he'd once coveted. He sat across from my desk, the power dynamic completely reversed. "I made a mistake," he began. "Several mistakes," I corrected. "Firing you was the worst decision of my career." I leaned back in my chair, studying the man who destroyed my life only to see me rebuild it stronger. "What do you want, Martin?" "I'm starting a small consulting firm. Nothing like what you've built, just enough to survive. I was hoping you might consider referring some overflow work." The request was so pathetic, so completely tone-deaf, that I almost laughed. The man who'd stolen my work now wanted me to save his career. "Martin, let me give you some advice," I said finally. "Respect is earned through competence, not taken through politics. You never learned that lesson." He nodded slowly, understanding that his professional rehabilitation would never include my help. As he stood to leave, I offered him one final thought. "Martin," I called as he reached the door. "Do you want to know the real difference between us?" He turned back, waiting. "When you had power, you used it to destroy people. When I have power, I use it to build things." I gestured to the bustling office around us. "That's why your career ended and mine began." He stood there for a moment, processing the truth of what I'd said. Then he nodded once and walked away. I never saw Martin Kellerman again. But his impact on my life continued in ways he never could have imagined. The termination that was supposed to destroy me had become the catalyst for something greater. I'd built a company based on the principles Martin had abandoned: competence, integrity, and respect for the people who actually do the work. 5 years later, Collins Technical Consulting was recognized as the premier infrastructure consulting firm on the East Coast. We delivered over $300 million in successful projects, maintained a 100% client satisfaction rate, and been featured in Harvard Business Review as a case study in ethical leadership. The best revenge, I'd learned, wasn't destroying your enemies. It was becoming so successful that their failures became irrelevant. Today, I sit in my corner office overlooking the city, reviewing proposals from potential clients who specifically request to work with the woman who built her empire from corporate betrayal. My story has become required reading in business schools, a case study in turning adversity into advantage. The Blackstone project that started it all has expanded into a long-term partnership worth over $100 million. Catherine Blackstone serves on my advisory board, and we still have monthly dinners, now as equals rather than client and contractor. Dean Patterson is my chief technology officer. Harrison Knox leads our West Coast division. Stephanie Ward manages our federal contracts. The team that Martin lost in his arrogance became the foundation of my success. Sometimes potential employees ask about my management philosophy. I always give them the same answer: competence over politics. Always. The question that haunts many former corporate employees, whether loyalty means anything in business, has a simple answer. Loyalty flows toward leaders who deserve it, not those who demand it. I learned that lesson from watching Martin Kellerman destroy his own career through arrogance and incompetence. Now I teach it to the next generation of project managers who refuse to let politics triumph over principles. This morning, I received a LinkedIn message from a young engineer at a company facing the same toxic leadership I'd once endured. "Your story gave me the courage to stand up for my work," she wrote. "How do I protect myself while building something better?" I replied with the same advice I give everyone facing corporate betrayal. Document everything, build alliances with competent people, and never let fear prevent you from protecting your professional integrity. But most importantly, I told her to remember that the people who try to steal your success are usually those least capable of achieving their own. Martin Kellerman taught me that lesson through his spectacular failure. He showed me that corporate politics might win in the short term, but competence always triumphs eventually. As I finish writing this story, I'm preparing for tomorrow's presentation to a Fortune 100 company that specifically requested Collins Technical Consulting because of our reputation for delivering impossible projects. The same reputation Martin tried to steal has become my greatest professional asset. If I could go back and prevent my termination, I wouldn't. Being fired was the best thing that ever happened to my career, because it forced me to discover what I was truly capable of achieving. Martin Kellerman thought firing me would eliminate an obstacle to his success. Instead, he eliminated the only person who might have helped him succeed. That's the difference between leadership and management, between vision and politics, between building something lasting and simply taking credit for other people's work. Martin learned that lesson too late to save his career. But it's never too late to learn it yourself. And there you have it. Corporate karma delivered with surgical precision. If this story hit you right in the justice feels, smash that like button and let me know in the comments, what's the most satisfying workplace revenge you've ever witnessed? Don't forget to subscribe for more real revenge stories where the underdog doesn't just win, they absolutely demolish their enemies with pure competence. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't getting mad, it's getting everything they tried to steal from you. See you in the next story where justice gets served ice cold.